Hi, this is Jonathan with Elixir Therapy, and I wanted to make the first of two introductory videos for our IFS course about how to create a better relationship with your inner critic. And so I want to first go over what's the kind of idea behind this system, and then in the second introductory video, I will share a little bit more of my own personal experience going through this and why I am such a big believer in this system and this course for creating a better relationship with our different parts, specifically the inner critic. So I noticed as a therapist that when I'd work with a client, what a lot of times I was trying to do in the beginning was to find a framework for the person to be able to talk about their inner experience, what's going on the inside of us, thoughts and emotions and feelings. And a lot of times I try a neurochemical framework, play therapy, spiritual frameworks. And what I found is that the IFS, the internal family system framework, is one of the most usable by my clients and some of the most effective growth that I have seen as a practitioner. What we're going to do is to create a framework to organize and I think simplify a little bit what it is that we experience going on within ourselves when we're experiencing some level of anger or judgment or criticism. I am not the person, I did not invent this. This has a rich history. Lots of other practitioners and therapists and regular people use the idea of the inner child, inner critic, and inner authority. If you're experiencing a lot of judgment, criticism, or anger towards yourself or towards other people, or a combination of those two things, I really think this can make a huge difference in your experience within about 2 days. I think in one day you'll feel a huge shift, but the second day when you follow up on your contract that you're going to make with yourself, with your inner critic, I think you will feel a tremendous difference. And if not, then this may not be the framework for you. In a lot of cases, and in some of the ways I was taught this framework, there's a part of ourselves that we try to ignore, or we may have perhaps let that part of us take over control. And this is the part of us that scans and notices, the very intelligent part of ourselves that scans and notices all of our and anybody else's errors or mistakes and logs them with the truly benign desire to protect us from making mistakes or errors. It is trying to be protective, but if we don't consistently go to listen, think, and take action on those noticings, those criticisms, then that part of us we kind of disown that part of ourselves. We try to ignore it. We lock it in a room, or if we are forced to listen to it, it's for just a few seconds, and then we're like, no, I can't take this anymore. Now, there can be the flip side, which I mentioned, which is that if instead of disowning it, you may come to feel like that is your main point of view, a critical or maybe even violent, judgmental perspective on yourself or other people. So it may have, instead of ignoring it, it may have become the main thing that we're using to understand the world. Either way, it's not a good relationship. Either we've ignored it and disowned it, or we've let it take over control of our action, of our behavior. Part of the reason I think this framework works so well is that it matches up a lot with the idea of attachment theory. That when you're trying to have a good, positive relationship with another person, your own child, or parts of yourself, there's going to be a process that I think is really, I think it's about 3 steps. There's first listening to what the other person has to say, holding that emotion. That's what I think part of listening is. We're listening, we're hearing it, then thanking that person or part of us for sharing that information, and then 3, taking action on it. That part may just be thinking deeply about it. Sometimes there isn't action to take, but sometimes there is action to take. And those are the kind of 3 steps that, in terms of dealing with another person, a child, or in this case, ourselves, a part of ourselves, that's what we're going to do. And this is a way to increase attachment even when something difficult is going on, to make the relationship even stronger, even when there's something difficult or emotional going on. I'm going to insert a video here, which I think, for me at least, poignantly demonstrates some of our relationship to the inner critic, which are, you'll see it here, but it's this phenomenon that happens with dogs or with animals in general, but a lot of videos you can see where dogs have been ignored, abused, not listened to, not taken care of, and their behavior is off the rails. They are aggressive, angry, ready to bite. Sometimes they're also really scared. And both of those can happen here. But I think with the inner critic, because it communicates in a critical, judgmental way, it's often more aggressive, becomes more aggressive as we disown it or move away from having a securely attached relationship to it. And that by a really gifted dog trainer, by being near the dog that is angry or aggressive, being near it. So essentially listening and holding its emotion. We're not trying to modify its emotion or feeling, and simply listening and holding the emotion and waiting, feeling thankful that this is happening, even though it may be difficult, and then taking action in response to that, which for a dog trainer is going to be continuing to stay there, maybe offering food at some point if the dog is willing to have any type of physical contact, then going for that, and creating through this kind of process a more secure relationship. Before we go on, this intro is almost done. I want you to rate kind of your inner experience right now. How judgmental, angry, critical, violent are you now? What is the rating now? How do you feel in your state now? And we want to compare that once you finish this course, where you're at then. And if there isn't a substantial difference, then you should request your money back and I will give it back. If this doesn't work for you, I have so much confidence in this that I think it will work. And if it doesn't, you get your money back. Okay? All right. Let me go over what's going to happen in the course. I've got the layout here, so I'll be referencing that. We did the intro. Next part, we're going to go over identifying the different parts within ourselves that may already be really clear to you, and it may not be. It certainly wasn't clear to me when I started doing this. After we're able to identify the different parts by identifying, either if you're already clear with it, great. But if not, there's an exercise of identifying a dream or a want that you have, and then seeing how that kind of plays out inside so you can start noticing the different parts. It's really important to be able to identify which of these three parts is talking, just in terms of awareness. Then we're going to prepare for the first meeting with the inner critic. Notice it's prepare for, not doing it. Then there's the actual first meeting and how we're going to handle that and structure that. That's going to end with a contract that we're going to make with the inner critic to continue into the future a dialogue and a check-in and a listening and a holding and a thanking of the inner critic's criticisms or judgments. That's going to send us back to the inner child, because the inner child will be there for that meeting and will probably get freaked out by some of the stuff that it hears. Then there's the follow-up plan, the follow-up meeting, the following, taking action on the contract with the inner critic, which usually is going to be later that day or the next day, that we're going to continue on meeting with this. And then once we have that set up, we're good. We repeat that cycle as is needed as we move forward. What I want to say is that as I've done it more and more and gotten better and better at it, it has become more of a natural habit, action that I'm taking. I'm not necessarily having to set aside a time and a place to do this, but at the very beginning, it's extraordinarily necessary, because we need the inner critic to see that we are not just going to meet with it and listen to it one time, but that this is a change in our behavior, and that we're going to continue to do that into the future. This is also going to be really important for the inner child, because it needs to see that we are going to take responsibility for all of the different parts, and that even though the inner critic is going to be critical or judgmental, we are still going to come back to the inner child and find ways to take action on what it wants, even after taking into consideration all the criticisms and judgments from the inner critic. That is the end of introductory video 1. If you'd like to check out introductory video 2, I'm going to go over what it was kind of like for me the first time, just a personal experience. It's still an introductory material. If you want to skip that, just go ahead and go on to the actual first video of identifying the different parts within us. All right, talk to you soon. Bye.